Malta will make masks mandatory again in all public places on Saturday. Joran Fennec says he was under influence of cocaine when police interrogated him. And the Electrogas have insisted that power station is good news for the planet. All this and more on today's episode of Lovin Daily. Good evening, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Grech, Urpani, and with me is Tim Diacono. We have one of those very packed episodes, so shall we jump right into it, Tim?
Yeah, so big story today. COVID-19 restriction is coming back into force. As of Saturday, mask wearing is going to be mandatory in all public places. That means you must wear a mask, specifically a mask for the visor, when you're out and about. So even if you're taking a walk by yourself, you have to wear a mask, or else presumably you will be fined. Grech, the health minister, made this announcement at a press conference today in light of what's happening in Europe. He was quite a bit unclear and fuzzy about the science behind it. He's saying that the hospital numbers are low, but that this would help keep them low. He's also saying that there's the fear of this new Omicron variant, even though it hasn't even reached Malta yet, and he's noting what's happening in other countries, which are introducing more restrictions. The problem, though, is that, the way I see it, vast majority of people in Malta are fully vaccinated, over 90%. So what's the point of telling someone who has been jabbed twice, 3 times as well, some people with a booster, and telling them that it's not safe to go for a walk by themselves without putting a mask on your face? Seriously, I don't understand the logic of this. I think all this is going to do is throw Malta into a state of uncertainty again, make businesses even more worried, and probably pave the way to even more and worse restrictions. Yeah. Only now without the hope on the horizon.
Yeah, so it was, of course, the announcement, while definitely the one that has been discussed the most all throughout today, and I'm sure well into Saturday and beyond, was part of a number of other announcements being made, such as Tim mentioned, that the Omicron variant has not arrived in Malta yet, even though Grech himself kind of implied that it is a little bit naive to expect, just like maybe some were doing with the Delta variant, that eventually it won't arrive in Malta. I mean, we are, after all, not special, even though we are the most vaccinated country when compared to the continent and beyond. Other announcements that were made included the fact that vaccines for children aged between 5 and 11 will be arriving on Monday and will start presumably being administered as of Tuesday. As for the mask, of course, Tim and myself are slightly from different points of view here. I, of course, understand and definitely appreciate the slightly hilarious notion of you infecting a leaf when you're out walking outside in the countryside alone. But of course, speaking from the point of view of someone who attends and organizes parties on a regular basis, I was quite terrified when Fern said, moving on to COVID, because I know what's been happening all around Europe. I know that a lot of my friends have had lockdowns, event cancellations, and curfews installed all over Europe. So I was quite worried that was going to happen, that you're going to have all these event cancelling, business killing initiatives coming back again. And while I haven't been wearing a mask, I mean, I think I lost the fancy mask I bought back in 2020. I mean, let's not forget, that in my opinion at least, until hospitalization starts spiraling out of control, which they haven't yet.
So why introduce this?
I think unless we start hearing, some sort of mask-induced asphyxiation, I think it's a good compromise of sorts to still have events.
What, though? If the numbers are low and the vaccinations are high, why put it in? I don't understand that.
I think it could have been
just to make people feel afraid, I think, or just to make it seem that we're doing something. But the strategy has changed, right?
Yes, sure. I think instead of feeling afraid, I feel like probably the health minister felt compelled to do something when the entire continent is closing down. And I think not closing down, being allowed to have all those events and being asked to wear a mask or forced to wear a mask is a happy compromise if I end up still having to be able to meet my friends, meet my family, have events. I mean, hopefully no more restrictions will be added, but we're going to have to wait and see.
But we all know they will be added.
Hopefully not, and as of yet my only problem has been a hangover and not a mask. Anyway, meanwhile moving on to even more surreal news, Joran Fennec, who let's not forget is the man accused of masterminding the assassination of Daphne Caruana Galizia, has asked the courts to declare the statements that he had given to police inadmissible because during the interrogation he was under the influence of cocaine. The Fennec's lawyers have argued and told the criminal court that he was in a vulnerable state. Of course, he was definitely in a state of sorts if he was under some cocaine bender. That the statement given at a time when he had been was also given at a time when he had been led to believe that he would be granted a presidential pardon, which is maybe why he was celebrating with cocaine. The lawyers have also asked for an expert to be appointed to determine just how much cocaine can actually influence someone who is being interrogated, and that the full disclosure of the evidence against Fennec is made. This is, of course, in light of the fact that the police case against Fennec is to a large extent down to the testimony of self-confessed middleman Melvin Teuma and some 200 recordings of conversations with Fennec, even though only a small number of them have been played in court. The decree will be delivered by court around a month's time, on 7th January, so we have yet to see what the deliberation will be. But, I mean, trust Malta and the surreal state when someone defends something they say by saying, well, I was in cocaine, so I should have been thrown out of the window there.
Yeah, it seems like the latest attempt by Joran Fennec to delay proceedings, to try and find anything possible to get the case against him removed. This isn't him claiming his innocence in the traditional sense of I had an alibi, I was there, I wasn't doing this. It's no, this procedure was wrong, this wasn't by law. So the strategy is obvious. Try and eventually something will stick and the whole thing could collapse. It's for me it seems clear what the strategy is, which says a lot about what actually did happen, in my opinion. So Electrogas, the controversial consortium behind the Delamara LNG power station, issued a rare public statement yesterday, and it did so via an open letter that was published on the Times of Malta, presumably a paid statement. It looked like one, even though it wasn't stated that it was one. And in it, they're saying, look, we're keeping our promise. Our promise is to deliver, to fuel the country with clean energy. Now, what's interesting over here is that clean energy is very high on the national and the global agenda, especially because of certain binding climate change targets that Malta needs to reach, and it's pitching itself as the company which can help Malta reach its target. So it'll both from a national point of view, but also from an environmental point of view, that we're providing you, the people, with cleaner energy. Obviously, this is coming after the Caruana Galizia family has launched a new campaign to pressure the EU not to fund a pipeline that's going to connect Sicily and Malta and be a permanent source of gas for this power station. So this is the defense, right? It's the line they're taking. You need us if you want not both to power up your homes and to avoid blackouts and to achieve your climate change goals. So the project itself is a lot of, say, dubious elements about it. It's very dubious. But then there's also these facts, right, which are also true as well. I don't think the two negate each other. I think they're both true. And this makes it more complicated than it seems to be.
I think it's, whether nefarious or not, it's an extremely smart strategy to change the optics from, this controversial, nefarious, potentially corrupt, deal, and all of the accusations that have been lodged against it, to a nation-saving one, because this is a complete U-turn in optics. This isn't, but we had to do it. This is, you're welcome for us doing it. I think, as you're saying, Tim, the facts are somewhat, unfortunately, undeniable, or rather, they would be from a point of view of someone who would maybe be a little bit more knowledgeable, because I cannot, assume some sort of climate change professionality, but I mean, the facts are there. I think, of course, what it ultimately boils down to is if something is objectively, maybe if it does have these good things about it, do you still go about it if it has been acquired from something that can be morally bankrupt or something that is dubious at best? Will people who maybe oppose what the deal stands for, or maybe stand with the Crown Galizia family in what they are stating about it, be swayed just because of this objective element of it?
Don't doubt that it could happen. I mean, this kind of reminds me about the sudden change of optics of the passport scheme after the pandemic hit. So there was a lot of pressure for Malta, internal pressure for Malta to scrap this scheme. Then when COVID hit, and the importance of public funds really came to fruition, the people who were criticizing it, even the politicians, they didn't criticize anymore. They really, really toned it down. So there is an energy crisis going on in Europe at the moment. There are countries that are literally straight out warning their citizens, like, you have to get ready to spend for significant blackouts over the winter. Austria is actually telling its citizens to stock up on food to last for 14 days because there might be a large blackout. So in that case, the optics could change, and that's will make it a bit tougher for the Crown Galicias to fight.
Absolutely. I mean, this could all end up being, reduced to a necessary evil, which some people might have to continue fighting just on the basis of principles. Moving on to something that also, gets principles and activist people boiling. Malta has now confirmed its latest sky-hugging project. The former Trade Fairgrounds car park in Nashar will be replaced, this time by two towers, one that is 10 stories high, the other 8. The PA and Planning Authority has approved this residential complex of 136 units. And even though the local council indicated it was against, the mayor, Anne-Marie Muscat Fennec voted in favour. The planning board has been accused of ignoring objections by the Superintendent for Cultural Heritage, who said that there is going to be a significant impact on the long-distance views. I mean, in that place, one of those views is the Mosta Rotonda, the Mosta Dome, with all its historical and cultural implications and heritage. In fact, the development was described as excessive, and especially considering its proximity to the urban conservation area. In fact, the NGO representative, Anek Wanello, was pretty much the only person to vote against it. According to Malta Today, Mayor Muscat Fennec said that she insisted that she's personally against it, but it would be selfish for her to vote against the project because the application was in line with relevant policies, and maybe two towers really are the option that would have ensured most open spaces. Yet another divisive one, which will definitely create quite a lot of opinions. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, well, it's also going to take off quite a few parking spaces as well in the area. That's the reality of it, and add more people to the area. Therefore, the battle for parking will intensify. I live in the vicinity, so it's that does concern me to a certain degree. But at the end of the day, as in there you go, right? Remember, all buildings and all residences start from somewhere. If it's in line with the planning law, like it's not taking up any green spaces. It's not to removing any cultural sites. Okay, fine. You can argue the view will be altered, but with that argument, you can't build anything really, to be fair.
Yep.
So maybe it might have even been the right decision in terms of the current policies. Finally, something which definitely wasn't the right decision. National Stampede Jason Safardi is calling on the police to investigate the Malta Tourism Authority, specifically the events section of it, over a report that they were planning to book out number of rooms at the Phoenicia Hotel for 2 weeks to manage the logistics of the nearby Fairyland Christmas festival. So if there's, as you probably know, the Valletta main square in Valletta has been turned into Fairyland for Christmas. Ferris wheels, ice skating rings, great fun. The Malta Tourism Authority clearly felt that they wanted a permanent presence there, and what better way than a 5-star luxurious hotel right opposite and funded by the taxpayer, which is absolutely crazy. Thousands of euros of taxpayer money for some officials to spend the night. At the end of the day, this is Malta, they can simply drive there. You don't need a permanent place. It's a luxurious hotel to manage Fairyland. It's bizarre. Now, Jason Sapardi is taking a step further, saying that the police should look into these plans which have been scrapped. I'm not sure, that might be exaggerating it, to be honest, but someone should be held responsible for this. It's a complete travesty of public funds, blowing it away without a care in the world.
Yeah, it's a pretty good deal. If you ask me. It's a nice, it's a nice fortnight Christmas, Christmas shutdown vibes. Yes, it's one of those news that's laughable where it's not so frustrating. The fact that of all the hotels, they chose, one of the most expensive in the area, as in some rooms go for around €500 a night. The fact that they felt like they had to be present, you have to be across the road, otherwise you can't meet all the admin expectations. As an event organizer, I've never felt that I had to, live literally opposite the road to be able to deliver something. I don't know exactly how many walk-ins they were having to deal with admin issues. Also, I thought that traffic was just a perception. So if traffic really is a perception, then why can't we just drive to Valletta? Where do these people live? That is so impossible to get to. And how many people does it take to manage the admin? But again, considering the headlines that came out from just the last 12 hours alone, the surrealism never really ends. And on that note, in fact, that brings us to an end of this episode. All that's left really is to wish you have an evening full of lovin'.